Hi, welcome back to this new edition of our podcast. My name is Rocael Hernandez from Galileo University, and we are live from the AI Summit LATAM 2025. And we are very happy to have Anandan. Did I pronounce correctly?
Thank you.
Thank you. So welcome, Anandan. How are you?
Good, I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me for the event.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. You know, this week, these days has been such a great and incredible learning for every participant in the AI Summit, and having people like you sharing your knowledge, your experience on AI and real-world application is just great. So, for our audience, can you give us a brief introduction about you? What do you? I mean, you have many years doing AI. I think it's a lot, but give us a short intro.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So I've been working in AI pretty much all my career. So that's 45 years. In 1980, I was working as an engineer, but then I was curious about things, and one of the things was, how does the mind work? You know, we talk about thinking, the mind, reasoning, logic, but we don't quite understand how it works. So I was looking for how to study this, and then I'm a computer scientist and realized that artificial intelligence, which was a very young field at that time, perhaps was the way to go about understanding how the mind works. So I went and started doing PhD at the University of Massachusetts, because not only were they working on AI, but they were working on AI which was a little bit based on how the brain works. So neural networks, which were not very popular at that time, were popular at the University of Massachusetts. So that's why I went to study there.
I see. So you were in the early days of this new wave of foundations for AI, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say I contributed a lot to it. However, I went and studied it. In fact, one of my first research problems I worked on was reinforcement learning. Mm-hmm. And I worked with Professor Andy Balto, who's considered the pioneer of reinforcement learning. He won the Turing Award last year for that.
Oh, wow.
And my first paper was actually with him.
Oh, great.
But then I found out computer vision, processing images and video, was much more interesting for me. I liked working in it because the mathematics and algorithms involved was more interesting. And neural networks were fun, but they were slow, and we didn't have the compute power to make them do a lot. So it was very frustrating to spend a lot of time but not get a result. Right. Computer vision, I could do a lot of things, but even then, of course, it would take us 24 hours to process one picture.
Oh, wow.
But that was better than, a neural network, which would take 24 days to process one picture.
Oh, wow, too slow. Right, right.
So I decided to work on computer vision, but I kept, doing a little bit of work on neural nets. And after my PhD, I went to teach AI at Yale University. But the AI that was being taught at that time was more classical AI, knowledge systems, expert systems, logic systems. I didn't like them. I didn't believe them. In fact, I was so disappointed because these things just did not seem right. But neural networks were still not, very successful. And I said, after 4 years of doing that, I actually want to work on more applied research. So I went to a research lab in Princeton called David Sarnoff Research Center, where we got research contracts to work on problems analyzing video. And video was my expertise. So worked on it for a while. And in 1997, Microsoft Research contacted me and said they needed someone to help them build a computer vision research area. They already had a few people, but they wanted a senior person who can be the head of the group. So I joined Microsoft Research in 1997. And at that time, Microsoft Research was like a paradise for researchers.
Of course.
You go there, you do whatever you want.
Right. And you get paid.
You get paid and you get funding, and you can actually fund other scientists that you like to collaborate. And they give you a little bit of money for doing that.
So it was a great position.
Amazing position. So I went there and I worked on it, and I had a group. We were able to hire some really good people. Doing, very interesting state-of-the-art computer vision research at Microsoft Research. But around 2004, I was close to becoming 50 years old. And I said, I can keep on doing this. But something was not right. And I always had a feeling when I left India in 1977, when I was 20, that I wanted to do something that would make an impact in India.
Okay.
And at that time, I felt the research PhD system and research system in computer science in India was not very strong. There were only like 35 PhDs coming out of India in computer science in 2000. Per year in 2004.
Oh wow, that's too few.
Yeah, so
India has a great
and
big
it has
educational system.
Yeah, about
a bunch of people.
15% of engineers in Microsoft were from India, but there was no
no
PhDs.
PhDs. Okay.
So I said I want to help this. So I convinced Microsoft to open a research lab in India. So we hired Indian scientists from India also coming back, but we also hired a lot of foreign scientists. And we worked with the Indian universities. So I set up the Microsoft Research Lab in India and built it over the next 10 years. It's still there. It celebrated 20 years just this year.
Nice. And you started it.
Yeah. And
wow.
I was there for 10 years. I was the managing director. But one problem that we saw that was unique to the research lab in India, which other labs were not working on, is technology for social good. Not AI, because in 2005 AI was not yet successful.
It wasn't nothing.
So we actually built a research group working on emerging technologies for social good. And that was very, very popular. It was one of the most popular groups in the lab. Lots of people wanted to work in it. It was very popular outside. And so we had a lot of fun doing it. But in 2015, at 10 years, I came back, did some other work, and I eventually left Microsoft. But in 2017, Sunil and Ramesh Wadhwani, they're billionaires of Indian origin. They found out about me and they reached out and asked me if I'm willing to go back to India to set up a non-profit AI research institute for social good.
For social impact.
Yeah. So I said this time AI, because the field is 2017.
Yeah.
So I left a job I was doing at that time, went back to India, set up the Wadhwani Institute for Artificial Intelligence, which is again in Bombay, and it's running in Mumbai, very successful. So I ran it for 4 years, and then said, time to retire. Came back to the US.
Slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and I've been since then advising organizations that are trying to do AI for social good. So the second half of my life has not been doing research, but trying to build institutions, for
an impact.
Yeah, that have social impact and education impact, and it's been good.
That's amazing. Such a great story. And I want to go deep into some of the areas. Maybe we can focus on the recent areas. For instance, in this institute for having social impact, what are the main initiatives and how are you bringing AI to make a difference?
Yeah. The first thing that I learned, when I started working on technology for social impact in India, this was 2005, before AI. I hired one of my dear friends. He's a professor in University of Michigan, Kentaro Toyama. I asked him to go to India with me. At that time, I was his manager. He was working computer vision. I said, Kentaro, I think you'd like to do this. Do you want to go to India? He said, okay. So he went, and he started working in this area. And he did a lot of research and analysis of the projects that were going on and found that many of them were really technology people trying to push technology onto communities. They did not need the technology or it did not address their problems. A very famous one was an attempt to give laptops to children in villages.
Yes, it was quite famous, yeah.
But it was not successful because, one, the children didn't know what to do with the laptop. Nobody around them knew how to use it for anything. Internet was not stable. And the laptops, if they start functioning, who's going to give them a new laptop? So they became mostly used for playing games or something like that.
Oh.
So that's one of the big lessons is, you need to understand what their problems are.
Right.
And try to develop solutions rather than throw technology. And that was a lesson I never forgot. And many of the projects that we did in the lab was actually based on going into the rural areas, talking to people, working with NGOs. We realized that the best way to understand what problems to solve is to ask the people who are solving those problems. And these tend to be non-profit organizations who have been around all the time. They're charitable organizations. social, religious, it doesn't matter. They're very diverse kind of groups. You ask them, what is the problem you're trying to solve for the poor people? And see, oh, maybe I can help you solve this problem. That's the biggest lesson I learned. And throughout, even in using AI latest, that's how we're gone about doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you have to get really involved on what are the current issues, the
Yeah.
challenges that they're facing,
Right.
and where is going to be the possibility to add more value, to add more transformation. So within the organization, what are the main initiatives that you are following and what are the early or the current results that you are seeing?
Yeah. Well, let me make one more comment. When a person is building a new company or a business, the first thing they do is to understand the market.
Right.
It's the same thing.
You have to
when
understand
it
the
comes to
user.
social good, people don't seem to think that
Yeah.
it's necessary. It's no different.
Yeah, it's just like a startup as well. Yeah, right.
So, the two major areas, actually there are three. I would say that two of them turn out to be easier than the third. The three major areas are health, agriculture, and education.
Okay.
Because health is core, and many of the health conditions that we all live happily, when it goes to poor communities, it's not the same. If you look at the health metrics, disease propagation, infant mortality, nutrition, there's always a difference.
Oh yeah,
between
it's big gap.
and so why is that? It's primarily because the health technology is there. We are all living healthy. Most of the time it's because the access to those solutions are not available to poor communities. Why is it not available? It's not cost, because the governments can subsidize medication. It's the lack of human resources, experts. There are not enough doctors to provide
Medical
care,
doctors.
and the time involved, to go get care to a doctor. So a person in a village, if they want to go to a doctor or a clinic, they have to literally travel all day to a place where they can see a doctor and come back. They can't afford to lose that time on the field when they are doing their farming. So frontline workers who are not doctors, who are not even high school educated, but they are from the community, and the doctors and nurses employ them as agents to go and work. But these frontline workers are mostly there to keep track of things and report back. They are not able to provide care. They are not allowed to provide care. And that's where AI can really help, is to give them new diagnostic solutions, teach them new methods, has AI agents talking to them and advising them on what to do. So they don't have to wait for a doctor for a day to tell them what to do. They call the doctor's not available, they leave some questions, the next day a doctor might answer. But now they can actually directly try to do that, given where AI is today. So what we found is the gap, knowledge gap, the expert gap, that is really, and it's true in agriculture also. Ultimately, what you find is that the big difference between people who are successful and people who are poor is the lack of human expertise and resources.
Right.
And some technology, but the technology has to be applied by somebody. That's where AI can help.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is completely true, and it's a really interesting point of view and a great point that you make, that this knowledge gap is the real gap between being successful or stay in a place where you cannot progress in your life, keep poor. I mean, there are many factors, but now in a knowledge society where we have abundant knowledge, but not necessarily abundant access to the knowledge or an easy access. And I think in that sense, AI is coming to democratize the access to knowledge. And of course, if you can create agents that are very tailored for specific purposes, and not only to a given, diagnostic, but also very in the context of the communities or the regions, that's really powerful. Yeah. So what are the early results that you are seeing applying this, and also what are the challenges on building these agents?
Yeah, so areas are, I'd give you broadly three areas. One of them, probably the most urgent one, is pregnancy and infant risk. Because a lot of what happens in later life depends on what happens at the birth time.
Of course.
Many pregnancies are risky, and even today women die at the time of childbirth. And children who are born underweight or are not getting the proper nutrition in the first 60 days, 1 month, 2 months of their life, that can affect the rest of their life, growth, stunting, all kinds of issues. So that's an area where AI can actually understand deeply what needs to be done and help the care providers make sure that the right things are done. Have tests that can be done at home instead of clinics, and the tests can be done and the results can be done by the AI that the frontline workers can monitor, right? Because the frontline workers are not expert doctors, but the AI can fill in that. So that's one of the big areas: maternal health and infant health. The second area is diseases, because if you look at any disease, TB, malaria, dengue, it's always more in poor communities than rich communities.
Of course.
Why? There are two reasons, right? One reason is the conditions of life do not allow the disease to fester. It may be unhygienic, maybe open air sort of things. And AI may or may not be able to help there, very honestly, because that's a bigger social issue. It's not an AI issue. So you don't work on changing the conditions with AI. But detecting the diseases and detecting the prevalence, if a disease is going to come here, it's already somewhere else. Understanding those things and modeling the propagation of diseases and being able to predict and do preventive measures before they come. AI and modeling can help there. It's not just AI, it's traditional modeling.
Right.
But with AI, the power of the modelers significantly increases. The third is in terms of drugs and drug treatment. See, one of the problems is, when we are in a city, we get different drugs and we consult with the doctors before we take it or not take it. Again, when it comes to poor people, nobody is there to provide the aftercare. AI can monitor the progress and be able to report back and improve. So, disease prevention, disease propagation prevention, and care is someplace where AI can do, right? And the third area, which is actually one where something new is happening, which is early diagnostics. So, for example, the best way to detect TB reliably is X-ray. But X-ray, reading and analysis is not easy. But today, TB X-ray reading is completely done by AI, and it's better than any human can do.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we have to make the
faster.
X-rays available.
Right.
So we need more mobile X-ray units. We have to get people to come to the X-rays. Now, another new area that's emerging is that can we detect diseases by the look of the face or the sound of the voice or the cough sound? AI can help say, hey, you may be at a risk, go get the X-ray done. So in diagnostics, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for AI to detect diseases early. At least in health, those are 3 examples.
Wow, I think when I'm hearing all these, use cases, I see that there is a great potential, and certainly you are already doing, on creating a great impact for traditionally underserved communities.
Right.
So that's a great social impact, and that's a great social impact enabled, of course, with technology, in this case AI and others, but also with visionaries and people who are really creative and really pursuing to try to solve or to try to contribute to improve lives of society and so on and so forth. That must
you
be
asked
very
about challenges.
Yeah, that must be really rewarding. So the next question was, what are the challenges of doing this? Because you want to get it right, not wrong. With AI, you know this better than us, that it's always a probability.
No, the real challenge, the most important challenge is who are the players, the system approach, right? Which means that in order for you to do this, now if you're a company that's making a new product, you have a group that's delivering the solution. You have outlets where people can go take the solution, and you have technical experts which tell them how to use the solution. But they all, you get money for all that. And then you have a R&D department, a sales department. Here, we're talking about, social sector. There's no money. A lot of it is government money, non-profit money, donor money. And that's very little. And they're not going to just pay for your AI. So how do we get those people who provide the care with very little money incentivized to actually work with you? So the biggest challenge is convincing the people, who are solving the problem and providing care, that this is actually worthwhile for their time, because they're not going to waste their time and do one more demo, one more solution. There are no, they don't have patience. And then you're working with public officials who have seen a lot of people constantly coming to them and offering this and offering that. And sometimes they would offer a solution which may have financial incentives for the public officials, which can be used for corrupt behavior. How do we get them to actually be incentivized the right way? So the biggest challenge is really finding the pathway to the solution in the systems and looking at systems that can be scaled. What happens in one place, in one state, if you want to apply it to another state, the only actor that can take it is the central government. So how do you get the central government to be involved and doing all this? How do we change national policy? So the biggest challenge is really implementation, policy. The second biggest problem is actually safety and risk. Because one of the big problems with AI is that people get too excited.
Yes.
And it can do stupid things and you don't know that it's doing stupid things. Again, we have resources to go to, but once you leave the solution in a poor community where there's not enough resources, they might keep on using it even if it's wrong. Mm-hmm. How do we, have checks and balances in order to prevent the solution and being used for the wrong things? So to me, the two big challenges are implementation pathways, systems, and safety and risks.
Yeah.
Third one, which is these days not so big, is data collection. Frankly, that used to be a big problem, but now I think that's a little bit easier.
How did you solve that problem?
You have to instrument data collection for any problem that you want to solve. But the fact is, because we have communication technology so good with cell phones and smartphones, it's actually becoming much, much easier now to collect data. You have to implement it. It's not there already. Mm-hmm. You can't scourge the internet and find all the data that you want. Mm-hmm. You have to, like when we did the baby birth weight problem, when I was working in Wadhwani AI, we actually had people take pictures and actually do the accurate measurement and send the pictures and the weights and the other measurements. And we had to give this to frontline workers who would go and do this data collection. And one by one, it's the only way to do it.
You get the data.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. That's an incredible story, and I think it's also very inspiring for, any country. I mean, every country, especially here in Latin America, we are facing, I would say, very similar challenges in case of underserved communities and so on and so forth. So I think you are bringing us a great inspiration for the new leaders, for society, for NGOs, for government leaders as well, politicians as well, to actually be able and see that there are great possibilities, and we can tackle that with technology, but also being smart on how to introduce it and how to make all the system pieces together to work towards having a successful implementation. And if we think about all these projects, what would you say are the highlights, accomplishments so far? I mean, you already have said many things, but if you want to highlight, okay, we have been able to do this, and these are the numbers, or maybe on a specific case, we saved the lives of this girl, of this family, anything you want to mention? Yeah,
so there are many people working, and unfortunately, I don't know all of them. So the examples I'm quoting are things that I know about.
Of course.
Yeah, so I would say, I'm going to say the thing that excites me most are three problems. One is in the area of baby birth weight. At Wadhwani AI, we developed a solution that's based on taking a few pictures of the baby lying on a blanket and using those pictures to create a 3D shape of the baby and using that to estimate volume and weight. Because babies' specific gravity is 1.04. They're mostly water. In fact, most of us are water. And so it's easy to get the weight from the volume. And that is now being used for accurate, weighing of the baby.
Oh, wow.
And it's not all the way national. It's being piloted in a number of states. I think that solution is tremendously powerful.
Right.
Second, because it's easy to implement.
Yeah.
And it's easy to use. The second one, right, that, again in health, is one of my colleagues, her name is Amrita. She works in an organization called Arman, where they are using conversational agents to train the frontline workers to provide care. So now we are doing what I was saying earlier, which is, can we use the AI to fill in the knowledge gap? So now
Right.
the frontline workers don't have to wait for a day. They can get advice, and we find that they're very interested in
Right.
using the system and asking a lot of new questions. The system has to be constantly learning. The third one is in the area of agriculture. Actually, there are two problems there. One is, again, at Wadhwani AI, we have developed a solution for early detection of pest infestation in cotton farming. Again, by taking pictures and sending the pictures to an AI that can say, oh, there are too many moths, you're going to have pest infestation this season, do something about it. And that system is now part of a national agricultural process. I think that's looking very promising. The last one is, again, in a conversational agent, one of my friends, Rikin Gandhi, he is the head of Digital Green. They are using conversational agents to advise farmers on what to plant, when to plant, even to do inventory management on what the market is going to be like. And
Okay.
so this can be a tremendous help for, again, filling the knowledge gap. So,
This is amazing examples. I think, like I said before, it must be really rewarding, and we are really happy to have you here and also sharing all these experiences and knowledge and insights and so on and so forth. So let's change gears just a little bit before we finish. Taking advantage of your all these years of doing AI, implemented in real life case scenarios, but also building the foundations or working with the foundations and the researchers. What are your views right now with the current state of AI? I mean, if you think about Gen AI, is this gonna be the AI that's gonna become the super AI, or are we still in a path where we still have to find new, models, technologies, make the AI more physical as well? What are your thoughts, your visions on that?
So, actually, it's interesting because, as an AI scientist, looking back, it's easier. I may not have thought of this when I was young. I actually think that there are three major scientific challenges
Okay.
in AI that I think we know how to address. One of them is, what is the core architecture for AI? Before, we used to think that big computers, with knowledge bases and question answering. No, neural network architecture. So once we figured out to do deep learning and neural networks, we are able to do things that we were never able to do today. And neural networks took a long time to be popular, and it had to have work at scale. But today the AI is learning on its own, and that's the only way an AI can learn. You can't put knowledge in there. You have to let the AI learn from its experience. That is happening. So that problem, I think, architecture-wise, I think we've got the basic stuff. There may be improvements, but the basic idea is there. The second is, how do we build internal representations from this neural networks? The neural networks is looking at bits and pieces. How do we develop concepts, like a microphone or disease even, right? You cannot put those concepts by hand, and that's what we used to do in the knowledge-based system. If you go to the old knowledge-based system like MySyn back in the 80s, there'll be something like TB will be represented as a data item, in your model somewhere, hand-coded. You can't hand-code them. It has to learn that concept on its own. Deep learning combined with the transformer work that you saw. One of the big breakthroughs, and I'm excited about, is the transformer work, which really is behind all of ChatGPT.
Right.
It's developing complex representations that we don't even know what it's doing, but it's doing it internally. And that's really the second breakthrough. The third, which is the problem which I think is fully not solved, which is credit assignment. When you're solving a problem, which portion of your AI is actually did the thing that helped solve the problem and should get the credit, and which one is doing useless things, so you should not give credit to it. That's an old problem. I think reinforcement learning, in my opinion, is really the right way to go about it. It's making a lot of progress, but that problem still, has to be figured out fully.
Yeah, well, I think we are living in exciting times in the development of all this technology, and also on the impact that can has in the world. I think if you can give us, if we can finish with a final word or message from you in this regard, how do you see AI will continue to impact the world in the coming years? Let's say in the in the next 5 years or so? What are your thoughts, or how do you see that?
I mean, AI today and where it's going to go is by far the most powerful technology that humans have designed, which means that it can be used to solve many, many problems and can do many, but it's also a very powerful weapon. It
Yes.
can be used, misused, to do really bad things. I think we are at a point where I really don't know which way it will go, because humans have not always been doing good things.
Of course.
So it's the same dilemma, right?
It's the same
I'm
dilemma.
optimistic because we've got this far. I'm sure we'll survive and do good things with AI.
Well, great message. And yes, there's a very big ethical challenges around AI. But like you said, I truly believe that AI is meant to be
Yeah.
for the human race. So it's in this kind of environments, it's in this kind of conversations where we want to bring the audience and the general public aware of getting involved with AI, and also put your best effort and your best thoughts and your best spirit to make it for the good of humanity. So Anandan, we are really happy
Thank
to
you
have
very
you
much.
here. Thank you very much for this incredible interview. And for the audience, thanks for being here.
Thank
and
you.
looking forward to have you in the next episode of our podcast. Thank you.
And thank you, Raquel, for the opportunity to come here and also the interview and speak.
Yeah, we are more than happy to have you here many times as you like. Thank you.